Kim, when we have players come in for lessons and such, one of the things they'd like to really work on, or they seem like they think they need to get better on, is their revs or their RPMs.
Right. You know, we always ask students before they come in, what is it you think you need to get better at to be more effective in today's game? And almost always, whether it's a senior player, guy, girl, typically looking to hook the ball more, to have higher rev rate.
So they're looking at different techniques they see on the internet or different wrist supports, and they're trying to find that magic, like the revs are going to cure everything. And most of them pretty much are going to be where they're going to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, and I get in today's game that high rev rate not only is it exciting to watch, it seems to be what's winning, but not everybody has the capability to reach those heights.
And the revs are really a result, or the release is a result of the whole approach. So you can get more efficient, get cleaner and everything, but to really go from 250 to 350 or 350 to 475 is going to be pretty hard.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
So let's go send it over to Nick, our sports performance specialist, and explain why different windows of developing these techniques need to be met at a different age.
Through studies such as long-term athlete development by the Canadian Sport for Life, they found that there's windows of trainability that the body is most receptive to different types of training. For example, like speed, strength, and flexibility. So if you don't hit those windows for speed and power, like throwing the ball faster and with more revs, it's a lot harder to develop those areas later in life. So a lot of times you get kind of stuck in those areas unless you develop them well while you're a kid. The age groups for speed training for kids, for both boys and girls, is going to be about 6 to 9 for the first window, and then there's a second window of 11 to 13 for girls and 13 to 16 for boys. So those are the time periods when the bodies are most receptive to different types of speed training. So a lot of times it's also beneficial to participate in other sports in order to get a full rounded experience with training and for speed. The best time to develop skills is going to be through ages 8 through 11 for girls and 9 through 12 for boys. In particular, these skills are going to include increasing rev rate and developing the skills on how to produce rev rate. This is going to be the most vital time to do it, and if you don't do it during this time period, it's going to be a lot harder to obtain an increased amount of rev rates later in life.
Kim, as Nick explained, a lot of our players that come here, and they're what you call a classifier, the classic player or the stroker, or even some of the seniors, they've kind of missed that window for that technique to really develop the higher rev rate.
Right. You know, just if you think about a couple weeks ago, we had the developmental team in from Puerto Rico, and I remember being so excited about having these young players to work with because there was all this room to get better with, you know, what everybody's looking to get better at these days.
But the senior players, the players that have been bowling for 20, 30 years, you're pretty much, your style is established. And I think a lot of times players get in trouble, or even why slumps are created, you start changing things to get away from your natural style. And it's more important that you keep your natural style, but just refine it, make it more efficient.
Right, the repeatability goes down, you know, the ability to keep your arm swing going the right direction, shot after shot, in the effort to get a higher rev rate. Well, none of that's gonna matter if you can't hit the pocket consistently.
And we test a lot of times players, their rev rates here, and we look at their versatility. And we want them to throw their normal release and their normal RPM rate, and then we ask them to get more RPMs, and then we ask them to get less. And it's kind of, we've seen some interesting things.
Right, very often when we have players looking to increase their rev rate, actually goes the opposite way. And when we're trying to get them to lessen it, because they, you know, in their mind, it means that they're going to do less. So their hand gets softer and quieter and almost, at that point, faster.
And actually the RPMs go up. So it's a small percentage, but the conception that to get more RPMs, it's more grabbing and more lifting. And that delays the ball coming off the hand. It actually has less RPMs. And then they think, well, I'm taking my hand out. So they just relax and let it roll off the hand, and the RPMs go up. So it's completely opposite what a lot of players think.
Their fingers are able to stay in it longer. Therefore, that time frame from the thumb exiting and your fingers exiting, if that's longer, then your rev rate's going to be higher.
So some keys to increase your rev rate, for one, is in fit. You've got to have a very good fit to get your grip pressure down, because the key for those clean RPMs is that very little grip pressure, so the hand can just roll out of the ball. You don't want to have to hold on to the ball and let go of it, because it almost is like a knuckleball in baseball.
Right, so a better fit, and you know, when we look at it, these are the things where if you're at this point in your career, if you're looking for an increased rev rate, we want to look at fit, and we want to look at, once in a while, there's some things happening in the physical game, you know, typically swing related, there's a window there where we can get some increase.
And we're looking at posture, because the release is really the result of the whole game. It just happens. You don't want to be thinking about the release. The other way to increase your revs is going to be posture. We need to get those fingers below the equator of that bowling ball when the thumb's coming out of the bowling ball. That'll help the RPMs go up, but it's not going to go from 250 to 375. We might get 250, 275, maybe 280 or something like that, but it's not going to be, but we want consistency.
Right, that seems to be a pretty common sort of pitfall with most folks, is that they kind of get here and you can see their hands sort of break at the end of the push away, or at some point they just sort of get those fingers just on top of the ball, as opposed to, like you said, a little bit lower below the equator of the bowling ball.
So right at start, they might have a good fit, nice relaxed hand, but as soon as the push away starts and that ball gets in front of your hand out here in front of you, you're going to have to grab it. Your RPMs are going to go down. So that technique will help a lot. The key is a nice relaxed hand, loose fit, and make sure the ball rolls off your hand. Really, you talk to high rev players, they don't think about anything. They're just throwing the ball.